Sam, let's bring him on. Let's talk about New York here a little bit, as if it isn't enough that New York gets 50% of all the tax revenue that is coming in. Senator Joe Adabo's like, hey, how can we make some more money here on sports and sports betting? Well, let's go to the DFS operators and say, you know what? What about some extra hundreds of millions of dollars if we change the age requirement here? My gosh, is this greed at this point? I mean, come on. So they go down, they're trying to go down here from 21 years old to 18 years old. Can you imagine, Sam, how many kids are going to be playing daily fantasy at 18? I would imagine that number will grow exponentially.
Yeah, definitely, Craig. It's a great setup for a state that's been all about money when it comes to sports betting. Now it looks like fantasy sports as well. Obviously, like you mentioned, they have the nation high 51% tax on betting, which a lot of companies like DraftKings and FanDuel have come out and said, wow, that's really high. We really hope you would lower it. There have been some attempts to lower it through the legislature, but what seems like we'll have a better chance is a bill that will actually generate the state more money. So now we're looking at the fantasy sports industry, which has been a really hot topic this past year, especially those games that kind of blend sports betting and fantasy together. Are they parlays? Are they player props? Some states think so. Some say yes, some say no. But in New York, they're trying to lower the age, like you said, from 21 to 18 to play those games in an effort they think will generate the state $150 million more dollars in revenue a year. Now, when I first came across this, I was kind of wondering how lowering the age would generate that much more money. Obviously, you're going to get more players, but it would also add this one-time fee that operators would pay, which would be $5 million a year to basically register with the state and stay as a fantasy sports operator. Currently, there are fantasy sports operators in the state. They don't really pay fees anywhere close to that size, or taxes close to that size for that matter. So this seems like kind of an effort to get it more on the playing field with what sports betting operators pay in the state. They'd also pay about 1% of their gross gaming revenue every 5 years. So that's kind of where the money is coming from here. It would also basically put in place that you can't have those player versus house games that the state has cracked down against. Games like Prize Picks has offered, the player prop parlay kind of thing. This would say that it's okay to offer the peer-to-peer version, which we've talked about on this show before, which essentially, uses players' entry fees as a way of paying out players or for the books to make money, as opposed to a one-off, you win, you lose, you get paid, you don't get paid by the book. So that's also probably where some of this money would come from, allowing some operators who have left the state to come back in with their peer-to-peer versions. The senator pushing it is also trying to include in a different bill something that would allow New Yorkers to bet on awards like MVP or Defensive Player of the Year. Currently, New York is one of the few states, it's about 10, where you can't bet on those awards simply because they're not determined by the outcome of a sporting event. MVP is usually voted on, depending on the league, by a bunch of writers or broadcasters or coaches, that kind of thing. So just because of the language that they have there, where it has to be sporting event, that's prevented people from voting on those awards. So that would also, be a change that's being proposed. The senator who's pushing it has been less than optimistic about the chances in the legislature. There's only about 2 weeks left. It's a lot harder to change things after you pass them, but he says he just wants to make the product better for New Yorkers going forward. So even if this doesn't get past this session, maybe we'll see it carry over next year and eventually get over the line.
Yeah, and again, daily fantasy is evolving, just like sports betting is evolving. We'll see if New York is able to punch that ticket home to get these 21-year-olds now to be 18. We'll find out. All right, same thing happening here in Florida on a different level. There's this group, West Flagler, Sam, that we've talked about a ton, that feels like the Seminole tribe have this monopoly over sports betting. Indeed, they do. They're the only operation right now with the Hard Rock app that's being able to bet. There's going to be a ruling, my understanding, coming up next month, but most don't anticipate anything changing with sports betting being legal in Florida through that venue. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's 100% accurate, Craig. But you never know what can happen in the court of law or the wild world of sports betting and lawsuits that we talk about a lot on this show. The Department of Interior, which represents the Seminole tribe, which you talked about having that monopoly in Florida, came out this week with a response to the request that the Supreme Court take up this case that West Flagler, the group suing them, has asked the Supreme Court to take up. essentially saying, the arguments that were made in the lower court, which happened last year, which ultimately allowed the Hard Rock Bet app to relaunch and sports betting to return to the state, essentially saying, those arguments uphold the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act only authorizes gaming on tribal land, has been the argument of West Flagler, not statewide online gaming monopolies. So it's essentially one side saying you're right, the other side saying you're wrong on this issue. So we've seen them come out and tell the Supreme Court this. It's not even 100% determined if the Supreme Court will take this up. Like you said, we'll have to see in a month. If they do, they could still uphold it. If they don't, that's the end of the line here. And the current state of Florida sports betting would be here to stay. I'm told by a lot of people in the industry that they're watching this case not really because of the outcome in Florida, but the impact it could have on other states with tribes, states like California, Minnesota, where tribes have that power where they, pretty much gaming changes have to be made through them. So people are kind of watching this to see if there's any arguments, if there's any, tidbits that other states could take in, any things that people could use in other states to make arguments for or against, tribal power, so to speak. So it's not quite a dead issue, but it seems like the current state of Florida sports betting is here to stay. So we're going to keep watching it for the next month. I'm sure we'll have plenty of more to report at Legal Sports Report on the Florida sports betting case.
Yeah, we'll find out next month if it ends up changing at all. And the one thing that we know has changed in sports betting is the interest level in the WNBA. Caitlin Clark made her debut. What an incredible start to her debut from a sports betting perspective. I mean, Sam, you couldn't have asked for more. She landed almost right on the number as far as what FanDuel set their line at as far as her total amount of points in game one. She'll play game two tonight. And sports betting and sportsbook operators are probably, I'm going to guess, see more action than they ever have before.
Yeah, while fans of hers and fans of women's basketball might not have been as happy with her performance, certainly bettors weren't. To your point, books were very, very happy. They had her point total at 20.5. She landed right at 20, kind of struggling in her pro debut. And it was no surprise that she was the most popular player prop bet in the WNBA during her debut. It was actually the Connecticut Sun's first sold out crowd in 20 years. So she's attracted a ton of attention at the books and in the stands, but it was also the first time in the middle of the NBA playoffs that you had a female basketball player be the most popular prop bet across the NBA or the WNBA. I've never seen that before. So she continues to kind of break records, generating betting interest like that. So she's going to be the most popular bet again tonight. I would be surprised if she wasn't across both leagues. Already we're seeing 99% of the bets coming in on the over for her points. And, the interest she's generated in women's basketball has just been crazy, carrying over from college and the WNBA draft, which saw over 322 times more money bet on it than last year. And betting on the WNBA is already up 350% year over year. You mentioned the draft earlier. I would be shocked if there wasn't more betting on the WNBA draft than the NBA draft, with how little buzz there is this year. So it's quite an interesting story.
Yeah, I mean, most of the buzz is not surrounding the top 5 or top 10 picks in the NBA draft. It's around this kid, Bronny James. I'm sure you've heard of him. All right, Sam, thanks for coming on the show. Always appreciate it. We'll talk again next week.
Yep. Thanks a lot, Craig. Have a good one.